I think the blackout in 1917 is a thematically interesting and relevant moment, important to the thesis of the story. I didn't think that the first time I watched it, by the way. I hated 1917 the first time I watched it, but a few weeks ago a friend of mine convinced me to rewatch it with the asterisks from them that they didn't like the blackout moment. Now, when I first watched 1917 before this most recent rewatch, I was under the impression that it wanted to be a practical action movie, that it was about being stuck in the action. Action, 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 realistic action. And so when I rewatched it, and distances didn't quite make sense, passage of time didn't quite make sense, I was bothered by it, and I felt like the movie had failed at what it was setting out to do. But that's because I was wrong about what the movie was setting out to do. On the rewatch, it was immediately clear that this is a World War I trench poetry story. If you're not familiar with trench poetry, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead actually captures a little bit of the idea of trench poetry and trench literature and World War I literature. It's this idea, this existential dread that nothing matters, that you are stuck in a nightmare that you did not start and you cannot stop, that situations are beyond your control and you just have to keep witnessing this horror that shows up out of nowhere, and that the ebbs and flows are random, and that the horror of life is random. Actually, some of my favorite poetry ever is trench poetry. I remembered that watching the movie this time because it was so much more clear that what we're stuck in is not awesome practical action, but what we're stuck in is the characters' nightmares. 1917 is about being stuck in a horrific situation and banal situations, and unable to get out, and unable to know when banality will transition to sudden horror, as it does. But there is one sudden moment that we think we are going to get an escape, briefly, or at least the character might, when he might be dead. At the beginning of Act 3, when a sniper shoots at the main character, or somebody, not sniper, he takes out the sniper, he's in the tower with the sniper, and he gets shot. We think he might be dead. He probably thinks he might be dead, but no, instead he has to wake up right back into the nightmare, which feels to me like an escalation of the thesis. And I don't know if that was intentional by the filmmakers. It probably wasn't, could have been, but as somebody who is a fan of poetry, I don't mind seeing meaning where it wasn't necessarily intended, and I'm sure that the filmmakers won't mind either.